environment to say what we're going to say and get out the way. Amen. Amen. So we thank God. We're grateful to God you could be with us tonight, and just grateful for your effort out there in the hot sun trying to win some souls. We need to win souls because that's what the Lord asked us to do. We need to win souls because people are really hurting, and they don't know what to do about their hurt. And they're just about ready to do anything but turn to God. I get all these feedbacks from this door camera that they have called Ring. The Ring camera on your door allows you to see them, record them, and occasionally I holler at them when they get on my porch. Amen. I'm talking about my neighbors. I know who they are. Get on my porch. Anyway, I see more shootings than is on the TV news. This is a real shoot-em-up town, and most towns are shoot-em-up. So you all have to be extra careful. I don't know what can protect you except the Lord. Because I am surprised at the number of burglaries that happen. People are just burglarizing in certain neighborhoods. The burglary rate is high. And I'm saying people are coming to somebody's house taking something. You know, you can be killed in Texas for that. Why you want to burglarize? You burglarize at night and they're in your house. I had a cousin, Senior May, who lived on Wyoming Street about 10, 15 years ago. Somebody was trying to come in her house, and they were burglarizing, coming through the front door, and being a Cleon of the Cleon Nation, she had her pistol, Sweet Goose, and she shot through the door. And she said, well, I mean, he wasn't coming for tea at 2 a.m. in the morning.
That's right. Amen.
But it is a matter of safety that you keep your doors and garage doors locked, and that you really take extra care. Our nation has gotten more crazy because guns are proliferating and burglary, and then people are lazy. And you got a generation of thugs that are at the lower level that don't even know how to rob a bank or how to rob somebody. They just have a gun. I'm 18 with a bullet. That's all. At any rate, please be careful. Please be careful. That's what I would say, because not to make you paranoid. You don't need to be paranoid. God's going to take care of you. But surely be aware of your surroundings and stay where there's light. Plenty of things. Amen? Because I'm just surprised that so many burglaries are all over the place. So it's expensive. If I go away on a trip, if somebody comes, you shoot, you blast them. Don't ask no questions. If they're in the house, blast them. I'm sorry, that's the way my daddy said. He said, come out, blast them. He was a true Cleon. Amen. Now, let's go to our lesson today, because this is a story about how to get out of a tight squeeze.
Yes.
A tight squeeze. When you're between a rock and a hard place, you're in a tight squeeze. You're between something your eyes tell you and your feet are saying, come on, let's run. And he said, feet, don't fail me now. David was in such a place when he went into the land of Philistines after leaving a place called Nob. And we're going to look at that in the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 21. David was in a place called Nob, and he was there talking with the priest. And then the priest gave him some showbread, as they say, and he ate. And then we get to this part that's really, really bad, where he has to deal with running and fleeing for his life. So 1 Samuel chapter 21 picks up our lesson for tonight, and we pick it up with David on the run. We always love to read about David and Goliath. David, the great king. David spent, when he was a certain age, about 17, he slayed Goliath. But after slaying Goliath, he obviously got more popular than Saul. When he got more popular than Saul, guess what that made Saul do? Envy and be jealous of him. So the women said, Saul has slain his thousands, but David has slain his 10,000. And when he heard 10, and he just had one, he said, what more can he have but the throne? And so here was an older man being jealous of a younger man. Now, that theme is acted out many times today in our society. When people don't have to be older, they just be jealous. I was at a church once years ago where the pastor was indeed jealous of me. And he had no reason to be jealous of me. I was doing everything I could to help that church. But when you were young, and we had a program called Young, Gifted, and Black, and when you get out of law school and you're 23 years old and you got a doctorate, San Antonio, I'm the first black pastor attorney in this city. I won't say that because I don't say it a lot. But that made a whole lot of old preachers jealous, and they did not know how to handle me. If they'd have learned who I was, they would find I was a nice guy. But they didn't go that far. They said, he's a lawyer, what more can he have? So Bethany was kind of born out of the fact that somebody got sick and tired of me being around trying to help them. I brought them on TV. I took their kids to the coast. We did it. Sister Smith and I did a lot for the youth over at Wheaton Heights. But the pastor was not acclimated to help. So I sympathize when I look at a lesson like this, where Saul was jealous of David. I can really understand that. And David had to do what my mother told me to do. Don't lift up a finger to hurt the man or try to insult him. And when you're young and you're right, Sister Lisa, it's hard to not say, you done me wrong. It's hard not to do that. When I got to my other church, the same thing happened. Or at least actually when I left, I left my other church going to Wheaton. So I had two preachers treat me like that. They didn't know how to deal with me. I didn't know if somebody knew about that until before Reverend Calder now passed away. He still had been ministering to you. He said, I remember when you were at New Light, how you were treated. I said, how do you know? He said, I heard about it. So here is a lesson where a person has to really hold their peace and let God fight their battle. And that's really the hardest lesson for any of us to learn, because when you feel you're right, you don't feel you should be quiet. Come on now. In fact, you say, I got something I got to say. And I don't care if you want to hear it or not. You go, is that what we come out of our homes to say? You're going to hear it too. But Mama stopped me when I was going to tell Dr. Wilkinson he had made a great mistake in what he said. She said, no, don't do it. I said, no, he said something that was wrong. And I really need to correct it, because he talked about my degree, and my degree is 100%, 97 semester hours of Juris Doctorate, and he told people, don't call me doctor. And that's something wrong with that Negro. He the one with the honorary degree, and I got the legitimate one. That will make you angry. At 23. And it is. But at 23, I was mad. So I'm saying that because I had to learn. Mama said, don't do that. Don't do it. I said, he's old. Just let him go. Let him go. I said, but you're wrong, Mama. She said, I know. But you can't. It's not up to you to correct. David had such a thing when Saul threw 2 javelins at him. Now, David had to look, because those javelins were coming with the fury of the anger, and if he wasn't quick on the duck, David would have gotten smeared to the plaster to the wall with 2 javelins. And he said, I got to leave this man. He's too jealous of me to deal with it, and I got to go. And he made a league with Jonathan, the son of Saul, and Jonathan loved him, and all the people loved David. But because David was highly esteemed in the eye of the people, everybody's not excited about your success. Amen. When you get somewhere, you get a new car, you get somewhere, you get promoted, or you buy a new house, something that lifts you up, everybody is not happy for you. So you got to understand that David was lifted up in the eyes of the people. He had to run for his life from Saul, and we pick up the story when he's running so fast, he didn't get a sword, he didn't get food. He has men who are running with him, helping with him. He has his entourage of people who support him. Not a lot of men. At the height, he had about 400 men or 600 or so. But he didn't have a lot. And so he comes to the priest, and the priest says, what? And the priest is scared. What are you here for? And he said, I'm on a secret mission. So here David has to, in a tight space, in a tight squeeze, he has to conjure up, and as we would say, we wouldn't say lie, we would say he had to embellish the facts. Is that what we say? He embellished the facts. So let's pick up our lesson as we tell the story, because I, as a young man, can identify. Verse 21, or chapter 21 of 1 Samuel. Father, we thank you now. Open our understanding that we might be wise in what we learn and the fruit we plucked from this vine that is rich in truth. In Jesus' name. Amen. Then came David to Nob, to Elimelech, the priest. And Elimelech was afraid at the meeting of David. And he said unto him, Why art thou alone, and no man with thee? Well, in this case he was alone, in a sense, but he had men outside. We'll get to that. And David said unto Elimelech the priest, The king hath commanded me a business, and hath said unto me, Let no man know anything of thy business about which I send thee, and what I have commanded thee. And I have appointed my servants to such and such a place. So David embellishes the fact. The king hadn't sent him anywhere. If anything, he was running for his life. But he wasn't going to let the priest know it, because the priest would get it. Once you spook a herd of sheep or a herd of cattle, you can't turn them around. So once you let something, we talked in St. Stephen's, close your mouth. Is that right? When you talk too much, there's a moment in time you shouldn't say a thing. All right, so let's go a little further. Now therefore, what is under thy hand? David said, What do you have to eat? Give me 5 loaves of bread in my hand, or what there is present. And the priest answered David and said, There is no common bread under my hand, but there is holy bread, if the young men have kept themselves at least from the women. Meaning, we only have bread sacrificed to God, and you can only eat this bread if you're holy. And if you haven't been out carousing and whatever it is you do, you can't eat this bread and holy bread and expect not God not to judge you. You better be holy or separated when you eat the bread. But this is holy bread. Now you got to read a while, and Jesus talked about where David, when he was hungry, ate the showbread. This is called bread that is offered to God. It's called showbread. And so in this connection, it was holy. So David said to the priest, You got any food? They don't have common bread, only that was offered to the Lord. He said, I need that. Give it to me, I'm hungry. Then he goes on to the next point and says, Do you have any weapons? Because I don't have a spear, I don't have a sword. And they said, The only thing we have here is what you housed here from Goliath. We have Goliath's sword. And there's nobody better to carry his sword than you. Yeah. Goliath, we know, was 10 feet tall, is that right? So that sword was some big sword. David was not as tall as Goliath. Will you admit that? He was about 5'4", 6. He wasn't even 6 feet. So that sword was probably bigger than he was. But at any rate, the priest gives him the sword and helps him. And then you get to the point later where there was someone who was a spy for Saul listening to David and the priest talk. And this person goes back and tells Saul, and Saul is so jealous. He's almost like Donald Trump. He's so jealous, he wants to kill, and does in fact send people to kill the priest. That's on that's the blood on his head. Now our story picks up because David knows that Saul is crazy, and he's running. And when you're between a rock and a hard place and you are afraid, everything looks large when you're afraid. Every little fact looks large when you're afraid. When you're in the place of fear and it's flight or fright, you are saying, you exaggerate. You're almost out, as we say, we don't say out of your mind, we say out your mind, with fear. So David was fearful. He runs into the camp of Achish, or in this case, the Philistine king, who was called Prince of the Fathers, or something like that, father of the prince. He was a very strong, black Philistine king. And so David wandered, he says, I got to get away from Saul. In wandering to get away from Saul, he had to hop the fence and go in somebody else's territory. And if somebody chased you when you were young, you had to get in somebody's flower bed to get away from them. You had to climb the fence. You had to do something to get it. If it was a dog, you had to run. David was running for his life, comes into this passage that we're going to talk about. And so, let's pick up 9 and then I'll take you to 10. And the priest said, The sword of Goliath the Philistine, whom thou slewest in the valley of Elah, behold, it is here, wrapped in a cloth behind the ephod. If thou wilt take that, take it, for there is no other except that here. And David said, There is done like that, and give it to me. He said, there is none like that. So he said, give it to me. Now we pick up at 10. And David arose and fled that day for fear of Saul. Now look where he went. And went to Achish, the king of Gath. Gath was a Philistine nation. Philistine nation with our people. All right? And the servants of Achish said unto him, is not this David the king of the land? Did not they sing one to another of him in dances, saying, Saul has slain his 1,000, and David his 10,000? And David laid up these words in his heart and was sore. You don't ever hear about David being afraid, but he was very much sorely afraid of Achish, the king of Gath. Isn't this something? Here is the man of God, the one who brought down Goliath, the one who slain 10,000. All of a sudden, don't have nothing but a sword and just had some muffins from Church of Chicken or something, and he's trying to fight. He said, I can't fight. I'm not ready to fight. And there is that moment when you're put between a rock and a hard place, and you try to think of what you can do. What can you do? I can't fight. There's too many of them. They'll kill me. Yeah. What can I do? He said, I can fight. I can have me against me. I'll take good me and sort of hide my sanity, and I'll pretend that I'm crazy. Now, I suggested to pass classes, and I've done these lessons in yesteryear. If you ever get to a restaurant and run out of money, you can fake crazy. And that's it. If anybody messing up, you understand when you go out. David had to feed himself crazy because that's the only thing that came to his mind. What resource do I have? If I stand up here like I got some sense, they will kill me. Yeah. If I try to say I didn't mean it, they'll say, yes, you did. You're lying. You killed every last one of them. So of us, when you had the opportunity. So they come to this point where they say, you know what? I'm just going to deal with this situation the best way God did. And God gives him this situation. What does he do? He takes him and says, pretend like you don't know what you're doing. If you think that you're crazy, nobody wants a crazy man. You don't even want one standing near your driveway. Say, call the police. Is that right? This crazy man in front of my house. So that was a good point. So David behaves himself like a crazy man. Now let's see what he does. Let's see what he does to convince the others. And David laid up, and he was very afraid. And verse 13 is the key verse. And he changed what? His behavior before them, and feigned himself, meaning faked himself as a madman in their hands, and made marks. He hopped on the doors, on the gate, and he let his spittle fall upon his beard. In other words, he just really made a convincing job of being crazy. Now, would you all have done that? No, you would have said, no, I ain't that crazy. I ain't crazy. They might do something too. David did it. He said, I'm going crazy. He probably hopped on a few tables, and they just said, huh? And so the king comes to the right conclusion that David was looking for. And we find that in the next verse. Is that right? Then Achish said Achish unto his servants, Lo, ye see the man is mad. Why then have ye brought him to me? I'm not an institution, a psychological institution. You bring this crazy man in here for me. Get him out of here. Is that right? Did it work? Yeah. Did he have to pay the bill at the restaurant? They let him out. Look at what he says. And he says, have I need of madmen that ye have brought this fellow to play the madman in my presence? Shall this fellow come into my house? And chapter 22, verse 1 says, and David therefore departed from there and escaped to the cave of Adullam. He went to Adullam. And when his brethren and all his father's house heard it, they went down there to join him. Now, how do you think David felt when he got to that cave? Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Lord have mercy. the Bible said he was afraid. And if he was afraid, he was seriously afraid. Because we haven't read where David the hero, David the man of war, David who was man after God's own heart was ever afraid. I want to get to this other part, because when David got out of the situation and he calmed down that night, he wrote the 34th number of Psalms. That gives you new meaning and new depth and understanding when you read the 34th number of Psalms. David wrote that after he got around the corner. If you ever ran somewhere and you got away and you got around the corner, you said, that was a trick one, huh? Yeah. Or you got out the store, hurry, let's get out of the door. Let's get out of the y'all been through these doors, and somebody's coming after you, you say, hurry, let's get out of here. And get in the car, drive away. David said, I'm going to thank the Lord for this. Because I thought I was a goner. I just knew I was a goner. So here's what he writes. Are you at the 34th number of Psalms now?
Yeah.
And he says it. Somebody read that for me right quick. Start it off.
I will bless the Lord. Amen.
All right.
I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. My soul shall make her boast in the Lord. The humble shall hear thereof and be glad.
All right, pause right there. Here is David saying, I am going to praise the Lord. I will bless the Lord. And how many times? When you get out of something like you say, I'm going to praise him all the time.
That's right.
And most of us don't follow up on that, but we say it, don't we? I'm going to bless him all the time. And David said, David followed up, sure. His praise shall continually be in what? And my soul. He went on down to his soul. He talked about his eyes and his paycheck, and he talked about his food. He said, my soul shall make her boast in who?
In the Lord.
And when the humble shall bear hearing, they will be glad. Go ahead, Brett.
Yes. Verse 3 says, O magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. Verse 4, one of my favorite. I sought the Lord, and he heard me, and delivered me from all of my fears.
Stop right there. All of my fears. What would you think going into almost, Goliath was Gath. So what this amounts to, when David went to the Achish and he was king of Gath, he was in Goliath's hometown. Coming to his hometown. Who is this David? And can't you see him? All these black people. Like Rwanda on that movie, huh? And he said, Lord Jesus, I'm in trouble, man. I was at Louisiana Ranch. And I told Laura, I said, you need to pull over here so I can go in this restroom. And she pulled over. And I was having nothing but rednecks in there. Ain't nothing but old chewing tobacco rednecks in there. I said, Lord, let me get out of here.
Amen.
In the old days, when you stopped to use the restroom, they get mad with you if you didn't buy nothing. I said, I'm getting out of here and I ain't buying nothing. Because there ain't nothing I want in here. It was the quickest play I played. Lord, stop me. I said, listen, thank you. Thank you for stopping, but I'm not going to stay with these rednecks. Amen? I know I don't belong. Is that right? I went to a church years ago looking for a friend of mine in San Marcos. Many years, I was very young. And went to an all-white church and they all turned around. I said, I don't belong here. David walked into Gath, the hometown of Goliath, and all them black people knew he was the one that killed Goliath. Now, how do you live in that? You shaking and shivering in your shoes and don't know what to say. And God says, you're going to have to fake crazy, but I can get you out of this if you fake crazy. I'll fake crazy. And they fake. Now, many of us would say, I could do that for a minute or two. He did that for however long it took, and he was convincing. He said, better be convincing. And he was convincing. Now, he gets away into the cave of Adullam, which is, there's another story that goes with that, but we won't get into it now. But he's in near Bethlehem, and he's saying, I'm going to thank God. So he says, I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. And he goes on, the humble shall hear of it and be glad. I sought the Lord, and he heard me, He put a marker on that. There are some prayers you ought to put a marker on.
Amen.
There are some deliverances you ought to put a marker on. I called on the name of the Lord. Woo! And he answered me. He answered me. He didn't come when I wanted, but he came right on time when I needed.
Yes.
And David begins to write. You ought to go back and make that your business to read Psalms 34. Now that you have a sort of an understanding of it and the circumstances surrounding it. Because now you can understand what fear, we all understand what fear is about. Because we never get out of this world without having some fear and having somebody that intimidates. And this big, huge king, he was a big black king, saying, who is David? You know, you can see somebody's daddy coming on the front porch pulling up his talking about, huh? Can't you see that? Wait! He said, oh, Jesus, that's right. Anyway, y'all have been through that. I love to run track like that. Feet don't fail me now. But the pretty part about it, he goes to the Lord. Yeah. And the Lord says, you're still my child. You're still my child. You had to embellish some facts. In other words, you had to lie to the priest to get some food. Then you took the sword. Then you went down there and faked like you were crazy. But I brought you through it. I didn't just bring you to it. I brought you through it. David said, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no what? Evil, for thy rod and thy staff. But what God says, I'm going to take you through the valley. Not to the valley, lead you. I'm going to take you through it. So David, if you will, went to the priest, embellished the facts, then ran away to Achish, king of the Gath, and he had to fake himself crazy. Then finally they said, get him out of here. Can you imagine throwing some rocks at him? Get on out of here. They're shooting him like a dog. He said, I'm a dog. Yeah, I'm going. And he went on down the road and said, thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Lord.
Because you brought me through. Now, whatever we have to go through, we just have to go through. And not all the time you can tell the God's honest truth to people who are trying to harm you. When they were looking for Jews in Nazi Germany, and Jews like Helen Keller and many others hid in the attic, they had to be quiet. And they asked the Germans, well, any Jews here? They had to say no. Would they say yes and give away the people in the attic? No, they had to lie. They had to lie, but God overlooked that. You hear me? When they were our parents and great-grandparents were being enslaved and trying to get out by the Underground Railroad. Any slaves in that wagon? No, sir. They had to lie. They had to lie. They had to embellish the facts. But God did not hold it. You can't lie like that. And God said, no, you're going. Don't tell them where you're going. Don't tell them where you've been. Don't open your mouth. So I'm not saying God endorses common lying, but in situations where your life is at stake, you got to do what's best for you. Is that right? Would you agree?
Amen.
So you don't tell the enemy that you got a gun underneath the front seat, and if you try to take another step toward me, you're going to pull it out. You don't tell nobody. You just say, okay. Is that what we do?
Yes.
That's what we do to get along. I was listening to, years ago, my wife had a cousin who taught at Prairie View, and she said she was, in those days, driving through those little East Texas towns. You remember this Prairie View where they got that girl that stopped her, and then she hung herself. It was near Prairie View. So she was driving through one of those little small towns, and the police stopped her and said, are you speeding in that? And she was in a Cadillac, big professor in a Cadillac. And he said, he just knew he was going to write a ticket. And so he got to the door. Ma'am, I see your ID. Gave my ID. Where are you in a hurry to? Well, I'm taking this car to Miss So-and-so, and she told me to hurry and get there, and Miss Ann is waiting on me right now, sir. And I'm trying, and he said, all right, then, taking it to the white lady. He let her go.
Yeah.
You better learn how to play the middle, the both ends against the middle when you get in a tight squeeze. And if God gives you something to say that's intelligent, say it. Amen? And just go on and let it go, because God is protecting you during that time. Now, I didn't think I'd teach that lesson tonight, but I think it's relevant. David had to do what he had to do. And when he did it, he said, I will bless the Lord at all times. All time. I ain't going through this no more. I'm going to give it over to God. And I'm going to trust God for my answer. All right, that's pretty good. Y'all get something out of that?
Yeah.
All right, God bless you. All right, we'll stand and have our prayer. What to do in tight spaces, Brother Marty. Amen. You get in the fix.
Yes, yes.
Amen.
Whatever God give you to do, you do it. Amen.
Right.